What's happening, guys? So keeping up with my Sword of Legends content that I was promising was going to come out, this is a new video talking about all the classes we're going to be getting with the summer release of this new MMO. I'm very excited for it, and I want to talk about all the classes. The cool thing about them is each class has two different specializations you can use to kind of change how the classes play. For example, some classes can basically be like a tank, and then some of them could be DPS, or some could even be melee, and then other versions of it could be ranged with whatever build you want to go of the two selected. So it's a very interesting system, and I want to kind of go through them all. Also, I have the Sword of Legends All Classes trailer in the link below. I really recommend watching it because there's a short little clip of all the classes and their different builds in combat, which will also really help you decide on which one you want to play. I'm basically just going to give you a more detailed description on how they work, basically because in the trailer there's no like audio of how the classes work. It's just obviously them just fighting in combat, just kind of show off the visual aspects of it. So this would kind of help you guys out. So watch this video and then definitely watch out for the trailer. Anyways, enough talking, let's get into it. The very first class we're going to talk about is the Spell Sword. So the first spec you can go for Spell Sword is Sword Artist. Now you're probably thinking this is going to be a melee class because you're using swords, but it's actually a ranged version. So you're going to be standing very far back and shooting swords at enemies from a ranged distance, which is really interesting. I've never seen that really in an MMO where a sword class is actually ranged, but that's how it's going to work. A really cool factor about this is you can actually throw swords and then teleport to them. So let's say you throw a sword in like a certain angle, you could teleport to later to maybe escape attack when like an enemy is trying to close a gap on you and attack you, or maybe even to dodge like a boss mechanic in a raid or dungeon. So you're gonna be able to teleport. It's ranged swords. Pretty cool. The other build of this class of the Spell Sword is going to be Bladestorm, and it's actually a melee. So this class is actually, you can choose between range or melee, which I think is pretty cool because if you get bored of playing like melee or range, just swap to the other build and then there you go. You can play a different playstyle completely. Kind of reminds me of like a battle mage where you would be able to use like a sword and then use like mage type abilities like fire and ice. So this is a very cool class in my opinion. Of course, with it using Bladestorm, they described that it's going to be a very fast-paced class, just dashing around the battlefield. They said there's like a pentagram shape you can do with the swords, where if people enter inside the swords, they actually get stunned. Really, this looks like the class to someone if you want to play something with a little bit of variety, if you don't want to always be melee and you don't always want to be ranged, or maybe you're just undecided. Seems like the Spell Sword is going to be the class for you. The next class is the Reaper. Now this class is really awesome. I think this is going to be my main. Honestly, I'm really interested in this class. So the first build they have is Assassin, where if you've ever played MMORPG, you're probably familiar with what Assassin is. Basically the class that usually has like stealth, they wield like daggers, and they just do a ton of single target DPS. In this case, for Sword of Legends, the Assassin class has a scythe that they use, and they actually get to like teleport across the battlefield. So it kind of reminds me of Black Desert's Sorceress Awakening, if you've ever seen that type of combat. So very interesting class here with the Assassin build. So you can teleport, you can go into stealth. It looks like you can use also shadow clones. I'm not sure if that's confirmed, but I saw in the trailer it looked like it would be the case. So just basically a ton of damage. Now the other build, which is really cool, is the Oculus build, which is basically a healing spec, which is something I've never seen. I've never seen like an assassin type class have a different build that allows them to heal. It's like polar opposite of what they do in the assassin build. But the Oculus is kind of like an edgy healer. It's like a dark magic healer because you're actually, they describe you're draining your own blood to heal your teammates, which is kind of scary. And then also you use these like insets that you can put on party members to actually buff their damage. And then you can actually absorb damage that a party member would take and deal it to yourself. So basically you're like a tanky healer, dark warlock, magician, something. I don't know. But that's the Oculus there. Both those sound really appealing to me. I don't know about you guys. But it's actually a healer class that I think I would have fun with, where usually I don't play healer. But I'm really interested in like using your own blood to heal your teammates. Does that mean like if you heal too much, you actually like die? Like that'd be actually kind of crazy. So we'll have to see how that goes, but this is a class that sounds really cool. Both of the builds sound very exciting. The next class we have is the Summoner. Now, true to their name, they have a ranged DPS spec, which is called Nature's Wrath, and it allows you to actually summon creatures. Like there's a fox you can summon, a golden bird that you can summon that actually allows you to taunt enemies, so kind of like a tanking creature. A bunch of other creatures you can summon, just doing a ton of ranged DPS. You also can summon like these giant light beams from the sky to actually smite down enemies and kill them. So you just have a bunch of different tools to your arsenal with all the companions you can summon. It seems like you could either tank, you can do DPS, you kind of just do a bunch of everything. So basically, if you want a lot of variety, this spec is going to be really good for you, and it does do decent DPS to my knowledge. Another spec they have, of course, is their pure healing spec, which is pretty typical. As you see, this class looks like a healer. The healing class is called Nua's Blessing. They also have this special like fairy they can summon, which will allow you to actually heal targets quicker. So if you need to heal like an ally who's about to die, just pop the fairy on them. Really, this kind of reminds me of just like a priest class. Honestly, it just does a ton of healing. In my opinion, I feel like most people will probably want you to go with the healing spec and not the DPS one, because it's probably not as good as something like a Reaper's like assassin build for DPS, where it might have like special cases. But I think most people will like be like, if you're playing the summoner, can you please heal? Because the healing spec sounds like really OP, like just heal up all your teammates. So basically, if you want to play a healing class in MMOs, or that's what you enjoy, this is the class of summoner the one to go. Next up is we got the Bard class. Now again, this is kind of a class that has been used in a bunch of MMORPGs, so most people are probably familiar with what they do. Basically, they're a ranged DPS class that uses music to actually deliver damage to their opponents. So the first build they have is called Dissonance, and this is going to be their ranged DPS, going to be able to use different types of music and sounds to actually weave into their attacks. Basically just doing a bunch of ranged DPS to keep it simple. They have different types of musical elements they can put into their attacks that do CC, basically crowd control effects. So that's really all the information I have for that. Just basically, if you want to play a ranged DPS class, the Bard is looking to be your best bet. I mean, you can play the Summoner class, but again, it's kind of mostly going to be looked like to be a healer class with their healing build being so OP. Or you can really play either this one right here, the Bard, or you can play the SPELLSWORD with their throwing sword spec. So really you have two different choices for range classes in my opinion, and then like an OP healer. So if you want a class that's doing a bunch of ranged DPS, basically the Bard is going to be most likely your best bet. They also have a different build that you can go that's actually a healer too. So the healing build is called Harmony, and it allows them to actually use their musical elements to protect their allies. They can create shields for their different party members. They also can actually freeze their teammates so they can like basically dodge a big boss AoE or a boss mechanic that might kill people. They can put everyone in ice. Really reminds me of Force Master's ice ability that they have in Blade and Soul, if you've ever played that game, which most of you guys probably have if you're on my channel. So yeah, this is a really interesting build. Again, I don't know if it'll be the best healing class in the game, but it sounds like probably the most fun. Actually, I don't know, maybe the Reaper one. The Oculus sounds pretty crazy, but I don't know. I have to really try these all out in my opinion. But really, it sounds like to me that the Harmony spec is going to be good in certain cases. Like let's say there's a boss that does like a ton of damage or has like a really big attack that everyone has to try to dodge. You just throw all your party members in ice and then you basically dodge the attack, you're good to go. Or maybe there's a boss that just does a ton of damage in general and you need that super armor for your teammates that you can cast with the Harmony build. That's what it looks like to me. So in certain cases, sound like it's going to be really good. But for overall, it sounds like you probably want to go the DPS range spec, as it probably does a ton of damage. So that's just really my opinion. Next up we have is the Berserker class. Now again, if you've ever played an MMORPG, probably familiar with this class. Just high single target DPS, basically up close and personal, swinging your sword around. Very first build they have is called the Slayer. The very first specialization is called the Slayer, and again, pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you're just doing a ton of damage, you're just killing stuff. It's pretty simple. They do have a unique ability where they actually can summon these phantom clones that actually attack for you, so you can kind of just summon like a bunch of yourselves and just kill people. So yeah, just a bunch of damage. That's really the simple thing. If you want to just do a bunch of high damage on a melee class with a sword, with a giant sword, basically this is the class you want to play. If you also enjoy being a tank in like raids or dungeons, you can on the Berserker. Their specialization for this one is called the Drunken Master. Basically how they describe it is you just drink a bunch of wine. I don't know why it's not beer, but you just drink high quality wine, and they describe it that because you're so drunk it makes your attacks wild and unpredictable. Sounds pretty crazy, sounds almost kind of funny. I'm really surprised they're putting out a class like this. Honestly, it kind of reminds me, I guess, of like the Brewmaster from WoW, but this one you're just literally drunk. Like the Brewmaster, you use like, you know, like beer and wine type abilities, but this one, you're just full on drunk. That's his description. You're a tank that's drunk. The other cool thing is you can summon a giant wolf, which will allow you to basically be able to tank instances better, does damage for you. Another cool factor about it is it actually can be a mount for your teammates. So other teammates, including yourself, can actually ride the wolf, and you can basically like take people with you to different areas. So kind of cool, different little factor there. It's really definitely a unique spec. I don't think I've ever seen anything really like it with being a drunk tank with a wolf. Sounds kind of random and weird, but honestly, I think I just have to try this. So first build they have available is called the General, and that's going to be your DPS spec. So if you want to do a ton of melee damage with a spear, this is a class for you. You can throw enemies in the air with the spear and basically let them land on the spear when they drop down from the air. Kind of brutal, but sounds pretty fun. The other build they have available is going to be another Taint spec. So with the Taint spec, you have basically super armor, where you just absorb all the damage that is attacked with you. You can drag enemies to get them away from your teammates if they're attacking like a switchy like assassin that you have on your team. Or they also have a giant shield that you can actually put in front of all your teammates to absorb damage. Basically your giant bruiser tank that won't die anytime soon. So those are the two different choices you have there. And that kind of sums up all the classes here. A lot of these are really interesting to me. Personally, in my opinion, I'll probably definitely go a Reaper. I don't know. The Berserker Drunken Master sounds amazing. I gotta try that. But a lot of these just sound really appealing to me. So it's gonna be interesting to see what everyone goes. I think everyone will have a couple ult characters. And to my knowledge, this game is pretty ult friendly, which is good to see. Basically, a lot of the achievements and gear and stuff you can trade between characters, which I love to see there. But yeah, let me know what class you guys are excited for. There's a bunch of different taste specializations you can go. There's healing specs you can go, DPS. Whatever you want to play, they basically have it here, and there is no gender lock or anything, so you don't have to be a female if you want to be like an assassin or something. So overall, I'm very excited for this game. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and let me know what class you're playing. Leave a like, sub to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one real soon.